95.3 WBCK now presents Coach's Corner, live from Lakeview Ford. For over 6 decades, this has been your number one source for all local sports information. Coach's Corner is proudly presented by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now, here's your host, Bill Broderick.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, in the big chair once again on WBCK for another week of Coach's Corner, coming to you live from downtown Battle Creek at Lakeview Ford on the Motor Mile. For more than 6 decades, Coach's Corner has been talking to the city high school coaches about the week in sports. We will be talking to each of the city hoop coaches about this week in hoops. But first, before we continue, here's the Lakeview Ford Coach's Corner scoreboard. With Mother Nature easing up a bit, we were able to get a full week of basketball and maybe a little added extra games this week. Monday, we saw an extra game on the schedule with Lakeview getting a makeup game in, falling to Stevensville Lakeshore 59-48. On Tuesday, Harbor Creek defeated Plainwell 52-51. Penfield rallied to come from behind to beat Vicksburg 73-68. Lakeview lost to State Power Kalamazoo Central. And Battle Creek Central lost to Stevensville Lakeshore 45-37. City teams had to slip in a game on Wednesday as well. One of the city teams did. St. Phil beat Climax Scott 69-51. On Friday in our game of the week, in an instant classic and a key league battle, second place Marshall knocked off first place Penfield in a triple overtime game to keep the Interstate 8 conference race up in the air. Also on Friday in the city, St. Phil was looking to knock off first place Mendon in its league, but fell short, losing 60-53. Coldwater beat Harbor Creek 51-49. Porter's Northern beat Battle Creek Central 67-34. Porter's Central beat Lakeview 55-43. And then we look ahead. We have some more basketball even this week. There's going to be a special game added to the schedule today. St. Phil and Penfield decided midweek to play each other. Both needed to add a game to their schedule. These two city schools have not played since 2007, but St. Phil will be at Penfield today for a 2:30 p.m. game, boys basketball game, and a fun city game that we don't see very often. We will be back with our first coach of the morning after this commercial. This is Coach's Corner on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Coach on 95.3 WBCK. Proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with our first coach of the morning, Coach Robbie Hetton, the Penfield Panthers. Good morning, Coach.
Hey, good morning, Bill.
Penfield had an exciting week this week. They got in a couple games, and we'll start from earlier in the week. Penfield beat Vicksburg 73-68. It was a game that Penfield trailed early by double digits, but rallied. They had the score close back at halftime again, and then they came away with a second half win. And but that kind of game, getting a victory in a non-conference game on a Tuesday, what'd you like from your team with the way they came back?
Yeah, absolutely. We came out a little rusty. We weren't really focused to start the game. We gave up a couple big shots early, but this time of year, you want to be in some battles. You want everything to mean something and matter, and we just gotta get better defensively, Bill. That's going to kind of be the common theme of my talk today. Is we gave up 138 points in 2 games this week when our goal, we think we're good enough defensively to hold teams in the 40s, and we're giving up 70 and 68 points, and it's just we just got to get better defensively and clean some things up before the tournament. And that was kind of the big thing there is, hey, we came back, got a win, but we always got to make sure we're trying to get better.
Yeah, you were down 20-4 in that first quarter and came back all the way. Johnny Lake had 34 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists. Peyton Burlington had 14 points, 6 rebounds. Calvin Pazins had 10 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. And you got that victory, and that set up a big game on Friday. That's the game that we're kind of going to focus on this week for the most part. As game of the week in the Enquirer. This game, one of the games of the season, in terms of action and excitement to the triple overtime game. Penfield came up on the short end. They lost to Marshall 70-63, but it wasn't lacking for action. It was two really good teams going back and forth with each other. An instant classic, as we said, and Marshall came away with a win. Talk about your general overall thoughts now that you had a little while to think about that game last night and what that kind of means for you guys in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple things. You got to think about a couple things. A lot of things had to happen for that game to get where it got to. It took 3 overtimes. It took us going 4 of 18 from the free throw line. It took a fire alarm getting pulled at the end. It took a lot of things for all that to happen. And with that said, we were still in a battle, and that's what I love to see out of our kids. Our kids never shied away from the moment. We wanted to battle up until the end, and it was a great basketball game. We call that a 50-50 game there at the end. 3 overtimes. I mean, heck, it was if you were a fan in the stands, you loved every moment of it, right? I bet you me and Coach Miller didn't love every moment of that. It's going to add a little bit more gray hair to both of us after games like that. But you know what? It was a fun environment. And we're hoping to see them again. We're hoping to see them again in a district final and put on another show. It's two completely opposite styles. Their strengths come from their guards and their shooting, where we want to get the ball inside and then go inside out. So just two different styles, and it's a fun game. But again, we have to get better defensively. And that's going to be kind of the theme moving forward. Is we're capable defenders. We just sometimes lose our guy because we're trying to do too much or something like that. So common theme this week and the next 2 weeks is going to be getting better. But here's the thing, though. I told the kids last night we still control our destiny. We're up 1 with 3 league games left. Marshall still got a couple tough games. We still got a couple tough games, and it's going to come down to the wire just like last year. And I wouldn't want anything else. Kind of a saving grace in this is now, every game matters. So hopefully we're playing our best basketball leading into districts where, the other side of it is, if we win last night and lock the league up, their kids, where's their minds going to go? Oh, league's over. We already won. We can take a break. Well, nope, not now. Now you have to play, and every game's going to mean something going into districts, and that's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, last night you went into last night's game. If you would have won that game, you would have had a 3-game lead, and you would have only had 3 games left on your league schedule, so you would have clinched a share of that. And I'm sure that was a goal coming in. Marshall's goal was to knock you guys off and tighten this up. So that's a big swing. Now Marshall's only a game behind. And like you said, you have still 3 games to play with. Marshall has 4 games left in the league. And so it could come down to the last couple of games of the year if it goes that way. But like you said, you have some games to play for. The way this kind of game went, in each overtime, in each session there, at the end of regulation and each overtime game, first overtime, second overtime, you guys had a chance to set up a play and possibly get a game-winning shot, and it didn't go down for you. And I know that was a little bit frustrating for you in terms of how it went down, but Marshall's defense had a lot to do with it. You credit them a little bit, and it was just, like you said, 2 good teams going after each other, and you just didn't get the right shots or the right setup to win those games. But what's your takeaway from that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously we don't like going 0 for 3. At the end of regulation, we had a chance to win. End of first overtime, we had a chance to win. End of the second overtime, chance to win. And, we got to execute better in those situations. The play we drew up, we didn't execute at all. In fact, we didn't even run the play that we drew up. Kind of did our own thing there at times, and you know what, that happens. Kids want to win. They want to do what they want to do, and we got to practice that a little bit more. I'll own that. I've said from last night. I said the same thing, that we've got to be the ones. It's on me a little bit. I've got to practice those end of game situations a little bit more to make sure that we're more relaxed in those times, and we'll get better. We'll be ready to go. And if anything, this is going to make us better. And so if we get put in this situation again, we can hopefully be more prepared.
Yeah, your game plan to going inside out was working well. Johnny Lake had 37 points in the paint, and Calvin Paysons had 12 points. Marshall Clark Irwin had 29 points, including a couple dunks, and he had 9 rebounds. Lincoln Fuller had 16 points, 6 rebounds. Matthew Waddell for Marshall had 10 points. Crazy game all the way around, like you mentioned. At one point, there was a bat flying around in the gym, and that had the crowd kind of going crazy. I thought maybe the kids on the floor were distracted a little bit during that point. And then, like you said, at the end of regulation, there was a fire alarm was pulled, and they had to stop the game for a little while that way. And all the two good teams going after each other, and every point mattered. And then when that kind of stuff happened on top of that made it all the more challenging for both teams. What was your reactions when those kind of things were happening?
Yeah, I just kind of laughed, with the fire alarm. We lost the game, right? But, we had them kind of out of their element right there. We were going to run it down and run a play there. And then they called timeout and allowed Marshall to readjust their strategy there. Not the time, they didn't call timeout, I'm sorry. The fire alarm got pulled. And so we're waiting, and it allowed coach to kind of talk it up. And, but again, if we run the play we run, we just didn't execute. You can't use that as an excuse. But, it was just funny. We're sitting there, we're like, all right, who pulled the fire alarm? Right. In the bat, it was crazy. We're sitting there, I just hear people screaming. My son is on the bench with me, and he comes running down, Dad, there's a bat. And, he was scared, and people were screaming, and then Peyton hit a 3. And so I called timeout just to get our team settled. I'm like, guys, it's a bat. It's not going to hurt you. It's more scared of you than you are of them. It was it had a little bit of everything last night.
So that moves forward as just an added game this week. You guys are playing again today. You have a fun game that we talked about during midweek. You had a game on your schedule that you had to kind of replace, and you looked around and you saw that St. Phil had the same situation. So Penfield and St. Phil are going to play today at Penfield High School at 2:30. It's the first time the city schools are going to meet since 2007. And that's just a fun game for local basketball fans to kind of get ready for, and then hopefully we'll have a good crowd for that Saturday game today. Yeah,
absolutely. Coach does a great job getting St. Phil ready and prepared. They're a heck of a basketball team. I was able to break down some film last night. Best thing that ever happened was during COVID, everybody started streaming everything, so everything's on NFHS network now. So it was nice. I watched a little bit of film last night, and we're going to have our hands full today. St. Phil's got some really good basketball players there, and they're very well coached. And, we're just excited to play another city school. We had a lot of options as we were looking. I mean, we were talking about going and playing some of the bigger schools over on the east side, but just couldn't work out the logistics. And then, we had an option of going to South Haven on a Monday night, and, it didn't make sense. And then when we could lock up the St. Phil game, it just, it's perfect for our kids and our community, and it's great for them, and it's just going to be a good basketball day.
A lot of fun for that. And then you go ahead and you're playing Coldwater on Tuesday, another league game, so a chance to get another league win and still climb towards that in that league race. So looking forward to talking about a couple of big games next week when we get back together, Coach. Thanks for calling in today.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Court. Progressive knows there are some surprisingly expensive things in life, like rugs. People say a rug would really bring the room together. And sure, you don't know what that means, but it sounds important. Suddenly you're using words like jute and sisal. Then you see the price and lose it, because how can the thing you walk and spill on cost so much? So you devote your life to taking down Big Rug. But then you remember that switching your home and auto to Progressive could save you hundreds. So, looks like Big Rug is safe. For now. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Finding a hoodie that lasts through the season can be tough. The American Giant Classic Full Zip Hoodie is made to last a lifetime, so you can count on it year after year. The iconic Classic Full Zip Hoodie is the jacket that started it all for American Giant. Custom heavyweight fleece and side panels for mobility make it the best hoodie ever. Every American Giant piece is made in America and designed to last. No exceptions. The result is durable clothing, like the premium Slub Crew Tee, No BS high-rise pant, and slim roughneck pant that become part of your life. Snag the hoodie that will bring you comfort for life. The American Giant Classic Full Zip. Save 20% off your first order at american-giant.com when you use Staple 20 at checkout.
Coach's Corner on WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with our next coach of the morning, Coach Matt Bowling of the Harbor Creek Beavers. Good morning, Coach.
Morning, Bill.
Harbor Creek got a couple of games in, which was a good thing considering the weather we've had lately. And Harbor Creek started out with Tuesday, and they had a tight battle in a non-conference game, and they came away with a 52-51 win over Plainwell. That game came down to a game-winning situation with less than 10 seconds left. Logan Converse hit a game-tying basket and got fouled and hit the free throw made a three-point play with 9 seconds left to give you guys the 1-point lead, and that had to be exciting to execute there in the last bit of a game and see it come away with a victory.
Yeah, that was nice. We kind of let that slip a little bit. We were in a situation to kind of win that in regulation, and that got away from us. And then to see how our resolve was and to see that we didn't hang our heads, we didn't pout, and we just kept playing, and then to have that result, and then at the end of overtime was great. Really proud of that, and then it was nice to see Logan on that offensive rebound just kind of rip it away from a guy, and while he was held on to, got it up to the rim and finished, and then finished the whole thing off with a free throw. So that was really good.
Did you guys have the lead late in the fourth quarter and maybe had a chance to win that game?
Yeah, we had the lead late, and they made a play. I mean, they have some long, athletic kids, and they made a play, and credit them for doing that. But how we responded is what I was really proud of. Like I said, we just kept battling and didn't bat an eye that it was going to overtime. There was nobody, feeling bad about yourself, and that can really happen a lot sometimes with kids in those situations, especially if you're kind of struggling a little bit at times. And they did a really good job, and we've been mentally tough with that all year. So I'm really proud of the guys for that.
Maddox McCarty and Dylan Eversall each had 17 points in that win, and that was a nice win for Harbor Creek. Plainwell came in with a 10-5 record, and considering the way they played and their schedule, that's a nice victory for you guys. And is that something you can kind of hang your head on a little bit, playing a quality team and getting a victory there?
Yeah, that was definitely nice to beat a 10-win team, a quality team, and to do that, I was very pleased with that, and that's definitely something they should hang their hat on. And I think we finally carried that momentum into Friday night.
And you find yourself in a tough tussle on Friday night. You played Coldwater, came away with a 51-49 loss, but it was a tight game all the way to the end. Tell us how that game kind of finished up.
Well, again, that was very similar to the Tuesday's night. It was a battle, went back and forth all game long. We had a timeout with about 2:25 to play. We were up 4, and we just didn't close it out. We went down and we had a shot out of the timeout, which was kind of a surprise for us, but we took it because it was a good look inside. We just missed it, and then we had I think 2 other looks after that. They just didn't go, but we had the possession with 7 seconds to go and had 2 quality looks at the rim, and they just didn't fall. But again, our resolve, the kids battled. Wouldn't change one thing about who took the shot at the end or how that went. So just unfortunate we came out on the other end of it on Friday. But again, another solid performance from Dylan and Maddox offensively. Cameron Converse did a good job defensively, as usual. And then, you look back in a game that's that tight the whole way through, and it's just a play here or a play there in both halves that we had some bunnies that could have gone for us either way to kind of give us a little separation. We had a couple threes that were in a situation that just kind of rimmed in and out. So you just make a play here or there, and it's a different outcome. But that wasn't meant to be on Friday night. But our kids battled, and we played really hard. And I was proud of our improvement from which we played with them last time.
Yeah, Maddox McCarty and Dylan Eversole each had 14 points in that game. Gavin Taylor had 16 points and 3 assists for Coldwater. Julian Thompson had 8 points, 3 steals, and 5 rebounds for the Cardinals. And like you said, when you look at both those games, 2 very competitive games for Harbor Creek, and 2 games that could have gone either way, win or loss in both situations. And you want to be in these kind of games. You want to see your kids playing tight games and being competitive in all these games, and that's kind of has to be your takeaway in these games, win or loss, right?
Yeah, and I thought, on Tuesday we talked about some turnovers that allowed Plainwell to stay in the game, and I thought last night, we had a little stretch in our season where we took a great job. We did a great job of taking care of the basketball and didn't really beat ourselves, and we kind of were struggling a little bit with some silly turnovers. Not that the numbers were out of line, but the quality of turnover and the type of turnovers were just silly and kind of led to runouts, and they were mistakes that we were more beating ourselves, and so we did a little film on that, and we did a really good job last night of limiting those and taking and not beating ourselves. So credit to Coldwater, they made a couple more plays than us. We were outstanding at the line. And I feel like offensively we're playing a lot better. We're getting a few more contributions from other guys, and then Dylan and Maddox have been really steady the last couple of weeks. So I think we're definitely playing better, and we just got to stay the course.
You're seeing some more shots go down from the outside and more plays in the half court where you get those open looks, and you're seeing early in the season they weren't going down, even though you were getting those open looks last night and on Tuesday. You're seeing more of those going down. Yeah,
our jump shots. We're definitely hitting a few more jump shots and perimeter shots, so that's positive. And that makes things a little loosens up the reins. The old adage, you got to run the ball to throw the ball in football. Well, a lot of teams like to go. I heard you talking with Robbie about playing inside out. We kind of have to play a little outside in at times. Just based on our size and how on our situation offensively with that limited size, and nobody can really play with their back to the basket very well because they're outsized every night. So not that they're not capable, but it's a little easier to face up and do some things and some pick and rolls and get a couple threes going, and then you got to come out and play us a little tighter, then we can get to the rim a little easier.
Looking at the schedule for next week, looks like on the schedule, a couple of non-conference games. Do you have any makeups going on this week other than that?
No, we're on point right now. It's just a little different week. We finish up our home schedule this week. We play back-to-back this week, which is interesting, but there's an official shortage, so we couldn't play Tuesday, and we're playing Eaton Rapids on Wednesday. And then we have Grand Ledge on senior night on Thursday, and with how their conference plays, so it's a Thursday night game.
That is interesting. You're not going to play Tuesday, Friday like normal, and you're going to play Wednesday, Thursday, and both non-conference games and both at home. That's a little different kind of challenge, but what can you kind of take away from that setup, and what do you hope to get the guys figured out?
Well, obviously we're going to play back-to-back, so we're going to have to use a lot of bodies, and there'll be a quick turnaround, so we'll have probably a little pregame walkthrough on Thursday. That's my homework is today and tomorrow. We got to study up and make sure that we prep this week for 2 teams at the same time, and so that'll happen this week. So I can't tell you a whole lot about Eaton Rapids or Grand Ledge at this point. I know Grand Ledge plays a pretty tough schedule with looking at who some of the guys they had. We used to play. We played Waverly once or twice, and they were pretty darn good then. And we see Waverly was on their schedule, and they played some tough games with Waverly. So I know we're in for a battle there, and I know Eaton Rapids, the Greyhounds are always pretty decent in that league too. So we'll see what we got.
And that's Parents' Night or Senior Night on
Senior Night Thursday
night. I'll be looking forward to a big week for Harbor Creek, playing a couple home games, the last part of the home schedule. So if you want to see the Beavers at home, you got to get out there on Wednesday or Thursday. Thanks a lot, Coach, for coming in, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you, Bill.
We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Coach's Corner.
El invierno es la época perfecta para explorar California, y nada mejor que hacerlo en un nuevo híbrido Toyota. Con 19 vehículos de consumo eficiente como el elegante Camry híbrido, la RAV4 Hybrid, lista para la aventura, o la Tacoma híbrida, Toyota tiene el vehículo perfecto para cualquier aventura. Todos los Toyota nuevos incluyen Toyota Care, un plan de mantenimiento gratuito de 2 años, una garantía exclusiva para la batería híbrida y la legendaria calidad y confiabilidad de Toyota. Prueba uno ya en tu concesionario Toyota local. Ahí estarás preparado para ir a donde quieras este invierno. Toyota, vayamos juntos. Consulta tu concesionario Toyota local para más información sobre la garantía de la batería híbrida.
Point 3 WBCK, proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer. Back here with our next coach of the morning, Coach Kim Burr of the St. Phil Fighting Tigers. Good morning, Coach.
Morning, Bill.
St. Phil got a couple games in this week. We're going to start with a Wednesday game against their rival Climax Scots. St. Phil came away with a 69-51 win over Climax Scots to sweep the series this season. That's always fun to say when you're playing Climax Scots. Again, a couple of wins against Panthers. That was a good night for you guys, right?
Yeah, it was a good night. We showed a lot of poise there down the stretch too. We've had a couple issues this year with kind of slamming the door shut, if you will, with an extended lead, and I thought we did a good job of managing the game late and finishing it off. So I was very proud of that.
And what did you guys do in that way? Was it closer at halftime, or did you guys pull away in the third quarter to take care of the business there?
Yeah, it was a little closer at halftime, and then we extended it out to around that 20-point range, and then we were able to maintain it at that point. But like I said earlier in the season, we had a couple games where we let big leads slip, and even our first time against them, we had it close to 20, and we let them get it right back into the single digits, and even I think it was even a one possession game at one point the first time around with them. So maintaining that lead and keeping the distance to kind of I guess take the air out of the game a little bit. That was big for us, I think, moving forward, because you never know what you're going to get into late in the postseason or anything like that, and so having that confidence now that we can slam the door shut and maintain that separation that we got.
Good home crowd, good atmosphere on that Wednesday game at Sheila Guerra Gymnasium there. The kind of crowd you hoped for that Climax Scots game there.
Yeah, it was. It was our annual Pack the Gym night, and so we did have a lot of people in the crowd. So it was nice getting a win in front of all those people, especially playing a rival during our Pack the Gym night. And so there was some extra going on there with the Pack the Gym night, and so it was a nice night. And so I can't complain.
Jackson Diswick had 30 points for the Tigers to lead the way. Lincoln Diswick had 23, and Carter Diswick came up with 16. For Climax Scots, Maddox Wyman had 16. Ty Chambers had 15. And that victory is a conference win on top of that, and sent you guys to 9-4 overall after that situation, and then set up a big game for you last night. And you had a chance to kind of knock off one of the heavyweights this year in the league, and first place Mendon, which was undefeated in the league, and you played a real close game with them last time you did, and this time you fell a little short and lost 60-53, but this game was tight also, and you guys match up well with Mendon, but just came up a little short in both these games.
Yeah, credit to them. We had a good scout on them. I thought Jackson had a great night defending Ryder Gorham, who was kind of their main scorer. And so I thought Jackson did a terrific job of defending him and taking his matchup. We early in the game, we let them get a 10-point lead early off of transition baskets. And I feel like that's kind of where, that's why they were able to keep it within, because I thought second half we outplayed them significantly. But because they had that early stretch where they had us down, I think 10-2 or 12-2, they were able to, be right there at the end.
It was a situation where the triplets were playing another set of brothers. That's always fun. Jackson Diswick had 22 for you. Carter Diswick had 12. The Gorham brothers for Mendon had most of their scoring load. Owen Gorham at 24 for Mendon. Ryder Gorham at 18. And that sends Mendon to 15-1, a really good team and undefeated in the conference, and kind of tightens things up for them in the conference. So what does that mean for you guys going forward? You have some other goals in front of you now in terms of that after that when you put that in the rear view window, and then you move forward, right?
Yeah, it sucks now that it kind of feels like there's no chance to get the conference. So that one does suck, but I mean we still got a lot of goals in front of us. I mean we'd like to give Colin back for beating us at our place earlier in the year. And, we haven't seen Borough yet, and so we want to win the rest of our division games. And so there's that, and then we want to prepare for the postseason because, it's a big monkey on my back. I'm not getting a district. I know it's a big monkey on the Triplets' back, not getting a district yet. And so just kind of at this point now kind of shifting a little energy to really making sure we are postseason ready. Adding the big matchup today with Penfield, that was always the thought, was to, use this as some postseason prep. But we got some big games down the stretch, and so we'd like to win some of those big games and get us rolling into the postseason with some momentum.
Yeah, let's talk about that game today. That'll be a lot of fun for our City Hoop fans. Penfield and St. Phil are going to play each other for the first time since 2007. You were there in 2007 when they played the last time. You were on the court for St. Phil, and it's been a long time. Those teams get together. It's an unusual situation. Penfield's a Class B school. You guys are a Class D school, but matchups seem to fit for both teams. And kind of talk us through how that kind of came together for you.
Yeah, I think it was Wednesday. I was teaching my PE class, and I got a text from Robbie, and Robbie asked if we wanted to play. And I told you earlier, I pretty much said yes before even talking to Vicky. Because we were sitting at 20 games total on the year, having to drop one to fit Colin in, and so I wanted the challenge for the boys. I think the boys want the challenge. They're looking forward to it. I mean they got a good team. I mean they have Johnny, Calvin, and the Merlington kid. They're and Coach Haddon's he's a really well coached team. So you're looking forward to this opportunity, and I think in 2007, 2008 that they christened the new gym with a St. Phil Tiger win. So I'm hoping we get a little Saturday matinee win, but ultimately we're playing a bigger school, and so we're looking forward to this and hoping it can help us with some postseason prep.
Yeah, the situation kind of helps both teams in terms of creating maybe a better seating in the districts if it comes down to that. That helps your NPR rating, and because both teams have winning records, they're going to be having winning records throughout the whole season. And I know that was Penfield talked about. That's why they kind of look to you guys as a situation. It's a situation where you don't play schools that big very often, and in terms of class size, you've seen some teams with kids that big, but Penfield has a big front line, 6'6", 6'6", and 6'4", and that gives you guys some trouble and some real talent in all those positions. You guys have all your talent in your three seniors, that a lot of experience there, and getting them playing up a little bit gets you guys ready for the postseason, and that's kind of what you're leaning on right now. To win or lose, that's what you want to do, and maybe shock the world and beat Penfield in an upset game. But either way, you're going to get some good play either way, and get you ready for the postseason where you want to stack some wins.
Well, exactly. I mean, we talk about it. We like to try to make practices harder than the games. I mean, sometimes it's kind of difficult because we got three seniors who are extremely talented, and we got a bunch of freshmen that are growing. So it's kind of hard to make the competitiveness in practice hard, and so we're trying to build that competitive through a difficult schedule. And so hopefully playing these bigger schools like this makes the Class D games feel easier when we get to them.
So that pushes you guys. You get that game against Penfield today, and that gets you ready for next week. And let's talk about the makeup schedule, which is always a fun time to get this figured out. And who do you got going next week? Because it's not what the schedule probably says.
Got ourselves a little NBA schedule. We got Monday night, we're at Broderick. Wednesday, we are home against Athens. And then Friday, we are playing Broderick once again down at Sheila Guerra Gymnasium. So a road, a home, and a home. Against
2 games against Broderick, which will make scouting a little bit easier for you, I imagine. And 3 games in a week. Get you ready. Another situation where you can practice for districts. That's what you want. If you can roll in the districts, you want to play a Monday, Wednesday, Friday game if all things are going well. So
I'd like to not play a Monday game.
Yeah, maybe not. Get a bye. And, and that's what that Penfield game kind of comes in. So it all rolls in together. So a fun week for St. Phil to talk about next week when we get back together, Coach. And couple of games against Broderick and a game against Athens, and we'll do that next Saturday.
Sounds good, Bill.
Thanks a lot. We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Coaches.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you can choose the best coverage option for you. Because you know you. Like, you know you can't cook. You're not one of those people who say that they can, but when people come over for dinner, they find out the hard way, you can't. You can't even microwave popcorn, and that's literally just one button. Plus, measuring and patience are huge parts of cooking, and that's just not you. Only you know you. So get coverage options within your budget with Progressive's Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
All right, this is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. And we're here with our next Coach of the Morning, Coach Steve Wickman of the Lakeview Spartans. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill.
We had Lakeview slipping in a couple games this week, and we had, let's get our bearings here. We had Lakeview playing Kalamazoo Central on Tuesday. You're playing that. That's always a tough challenge when you play the Maroon Giants, and even more so this year. They're undefeated in the league, and they came away with that win. Talk about your matchup with Kalamazoo Central and why that makes it such a challenge.
Well, because they're really good. Yeah. That's what makes it a challenge. I mean, they've got all the pieces that you need for a really good team. They've got their big kids going to Oakland to play. They have another guard that I think might be going to Aquinas or something like. I mean, it's an NAIA school, and their other three starters will probably end up somewhere. It's kind of like, I was talking to our coaching staff about it. It's kind of like men amongst boys. They're just that much better than pretty much everybody in our league.
And another kid with a Battle Creek ties, the junior is a Battle Creek Central native, or came through Battle Creek Central as elementary school, possibly. He's from Battle Creek, the white kid.
Somehow he's from Battle Creek, yeah. Via Kentucky and Ohio and some other
Indiana,
place.
Came back and played for
I don't
Central.
know the whole story, and I don't really care.
But they got up on you early and had a halftime lead that you guys had a kind of
I was happy with our effort. I thought our kids played hard, and I think we played the entire game. I don't think we ever stopped working. It was a mismatch to begin with, and I think everybody, you're not going to lie to your kids and say, we're just as good as them, and but at the same time, we did want to compete. We wanted to make sure that we did the things that we are capable of doing, and I thought we did a pretty good job of that. I thought at times it could have gotten really, really ugly, and I think our kids just didn't want to let it get really, really ugly. So I give them a lot of credit for, hanging in there and just playing as hard as they can.
And that set up a game last night. You guys played Porter Central. Porter Central came away with a 55-43 win. Tay Newton had 12 points for you. Talk us through how that game kind of started and got you to halftime there.
So we played one of our best halves of the year, I think, the first half. We were up, I think, 3 at halftime. Played really, really well in the first half. Tay was on 10 last night. He just was all over the place, getting loose balls and getting putbacks and putting them in. And he had a really, really good first half. And then third quarter kind of got away from us a little bit. I think they might have had a few choice words in the locker room or something at halftime, but they came out, hit a couple threes early on. Kind of some just miscommunication on our defense, where we just, we did a really good job in the first half with our defensive game plan of doing everything we wanted to do, and then the second half, we kind of, I guess in the third quarter mostly, we kind of lost track of a guy a couple times, and they knocked down a couple threes, and then we turned the ball over, just weird turnovers a couple times, and you look up and we're down 9 all of a sudden.
And that puts you guys on a little bit of a losing streak. After last week, we talked about a little bit of a winning streak. So it's an up and down roller coaster season for you guys all the way around. So what do you want to kind of smooth this out and get going? What's your goals going forward?
Well, we're still talking about playing our best game, and trying to be as good as we can. We're kind of tinkering with our lineup a little bit, trying to get some kids who are making a little bit more progress, a little bit more time, and heading. Every team at this point in the year is doing the same thing. Unless you're fighting for a league title, you're looking forward to districts and what you can do in the tournament. And you want to be playing your best basketball at that time of the year, and then see how things play out. And I don't think we're any different than anybody else in that regard. That we're trying to get to a high point in our season as we go into the last 2 or 3 weeks here, which is hard to believe, by the way.
Yeah, it's coming quick. You're right. Only 2 weeks left in the regular season.
Yeah.
You have Porter's Northern. You went from one Porter school to another one. You have Porter's Northern next week, and you have Matawan also next week. Do you have any makeup games next week going too? Or?
Yeah, so actually we skipped a makeup game we didn't talk about that we played Monday at Lakeshore. We don't need to talk about it, but I just thought I'd let you know that, we played 3 games this week. We played Monday, Tuesday, Friday. And then this week we're going to play Tuesday at Portage, Wednesday at Norix, Friday at Matawan. So
6 games in a matter of 2 weeks there.
Yes, and we're going to hop on the bus for all 3 of them this week.
Oh, okay.
So the challenge is out there. We've got a lot of stuff going on this week. 3 games in a week and getting on the bus for 3 games, and so we'll see how our guys react. It is. I think the players think it's a dream to play 3 games in a week because they don't have to listen to coach at the practices. But it does. It is a different. It's a different bear. It's a different bear. It's just not something that you're used to. And we had a lot of tired kids last night when we were done.
And I imagine that's going to be the same way. That's what you have to keep your legs strong, and you have to make sure they don't eat too much Schlotzsky's on the bus, I guess, also, right? And
It's weird. Because you need to practice to get ready for the next opponent, but at the same time, like you said, you have to save legs a little bit. You can't, when you're playing, especially when you play back-to-back nights like we did this week, and we'll do that again next week. That's kind of crazy, but so you don't have time to, you can get in watch film, or you can get in the gym and walk through some things, but when you don't have a practice in between games, you don't have time to really get after the things that you need to get after for the next opponent. So it'll be fun. It'll be a good challenge for our guys. The way districts are, sometimes you end up playing 3 games in a week. So maybe these 2 weeks are a good test for us to see how 3 games in a week feels like.
And you guys are on the road for districts also. We'll head to that.
Yeah, we're down in Amish country, down in Sturgis.
That's right. All right.
Yes.
So that could be 3 long bus rides that week also possibly for you.
Well, let's hope so.
Go well.
Yeah, I would love to have 3 long bus rides that week.
So we have Lakeview with 3 road games this week to head into the second to last week of the season, and then a final week playing Coldwater and rival Battle Creek Central to finish the season off. And you guys want to get things accomplished here and get some guys, like you said, get the kind of rotation that you want going forward, and make sure you're playing your best basketball at the right time. Right?
Absolutely. And I hope, I don't have any doubt that our kids will work toward that. This is hard for people to believe maybe, but this has been a really fun year for me because we just have good kids. They work hard. They don't complain much. They listen for the most part pretty well. So it's a fun team to be around. They don't let losses stick with them very long, and they try to get ready for the next game. So I think if their work ethic will make sure that we're as good as we can be at the end.
Well, that's a good thing to have. That's a good thing to lean on as a coach, and sounds like you guys are in the right situation there. And we'll talk about 3 road games when we get back together next Saturday, Coach. Thanks a lot for coming in.
Thanks, Bill.
We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
On 95.3 WBCK. Proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner with our next Coach of the Morning, here with Coach Crum of the Battle Creek Central Bearcats. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill.
Looks like we did a little Battle Creek Enquirer jinx on you this week. We did a nice story on your young team early in the week and talk about how you guys are ahead of schedule with those young freshmen and sophomores, and then that led to a couple losses after you guys have been on a winning ways lately. So talk about starting that off with you play Stevensville Lakeshore on Tuesday and came up a little bit short. Let's talk about that game a little bit and what happened in there.
Well, we got off to a slow start, but really so did they. I mean, the halftime score, we were down 3. I think it was 15-12. But we just didn't get much offense generated that night against Lakeshore. We only scored 37 points. Held them to 45, but 45 will beat 37 every time. So, yeah, just a slow first half and not able to really get much offense generated that night.
So a lot of defense on both sides, or just a lot of offenses kind of struggling a little bit, or a combination of both?
We didn't play bad defensively, but I would say it was a little bit of both. They weren't all that great offensively either. I think both teams played pretty good on the defensive end. But for us, it was a combination of our start and not being able to get offense generated.
Then you came in last night and played a Portage Northern team, and maybe for the first time all year you were real competitive. You lost 67-34, and I think you hung your head on all year that your young team has been, even if you lost some games, you've been really competitive in all the games that you played, which is a testament to those kids playing hard and maybe being ahead of the curve in terms of being young players on varsity. But that didn't really happen last night. So talk us through what kind of happened last night. That kind of game kind of get away from you early, or how'd that kind of happen?
Oh, yeah. Portage Northern really came out strong. They got a lot of size. They were physical. And once again, our offensive execution and success offensively was definitely not our best. We got off to another slow start against Northern. That's 2 games in a row that I think we had under 15 points. At the end of the first half. Actually, we had 15 last night to their 29. So they were off and running early, and just got out in front and was too much of a hole even at halftime. We fought pretty well in the second half, but they just got a lot of easy buckets, a lot of buckets in transition. They played extremely hard, and we just couldn't match their energy last night.
Are you seeing something on the floor that's kind of a trend that you don't want to see, that maybe you can kind of adjust a little bit in practice going forward in terms of this slow starts that you guys have been having, or maybe struggling a little bit on offense?
Yeah, we got to iron out some kinks there for sure. I don't know. I think that when we hit the floor, maybe we're not quite ready for the ball to go up. We're not either loose enough, focused enough. Something's getting in the way early that we got to figure that out. But we'll get back in the gym and we'll do what we need to do, and hopefully we'll have it figured out by the time it all counts going down the stretch.
So it is coming down the stretch right now in terms of the regular season. Let's talk through next week. Do you have any makeup games that we're trying to catch up on some of those? And we have Portage Central for you on a midweek game, and then Kalamazoo Central on Friday. Do you have anything else next week that you're trying to slip in there to take care of the schedule?
We have one game yet to reschedule, and that's our second game against, I want to say St. Joe. But as of today, we still do not have a date for that game. So as of right now, we'll have Portage Central and Kalamazoo Central next week.
Both those games are on the road. I guess a couple teams have been playing pretty good basketball right now, and with your guys struggling a little bit, that's going to be a challenge for them to kind of keep their heads in the game and make sure they keep their heads up. Is that going to be the goal for the coaching staff going forward, to make sure you guys are still confidence-wise going in the right direction as you head into these last 2 weeks of the regular season?
Yeah, well, those are going to be two tough games without a doubt. I think we have to get our guys focused on taking a look at what's allowed us to be successful with the success that we've had thus far, and what's missing that's allowing us not to experience that same success. So we got work to do. Two tough games coming up. But we'll talk a lot about what's missing and what needs to happen in order for us to get back on the right track.
I guess what you're hoping is not happening is a little bit of a freshman or sophomore wall that you're hitting at the end of a varsity season. As most competitive games they've played at such a long period of time in their life, and coming to an end of a long regular season of varsity play, could that have something part of what's happening right now, or are you just running into a bunch of really quality teams all at the same time?
Well,
I
think once again it's a combination of the two. High school basketball season is almost twice as long as a middle school season, and we still got guys that are just coming out of middle school. So, but we don't want to use that as an excuse. I think it is a reality though that the season is longer and it's starting to wear on them. But also the schedule ending the season is, I would say, a bit tougher than how we opened up and with the opponents that we opened up with.
Well, a couple road games for the Bearcats, and we'll talk about those games when we get back together next Saturday, Coach. Thanks for calling in.
Okay, Bill. Thanks.
We'll be back on Coach's Corner next Saturday again, 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Join us then on WBCK 95.3 FM.